We do have an author in the studio. We have Vocab Malone, Barack Obama versus the Black Hebrew Israelites. I do not understand the title. I do not pretend to understand the title, but you can understand the title if you read the book, I suppose. But
give me 20 seconds, I can explain it.
But and you look on the back here, and I think you're trying to hide from the light in that picture. Because it's really dark. I mean, it's like, where is he?
I didn't design all of that.
Yeah, go ahead. You got 20. You got 20 seconds.
There's a Netflix movie that came out in 2016, and it's about young Obama when he's 21 years old, and he has to live in Harlem while he's going to Columbia, which is in New York. And he's walking on the street in one of the scenes, and it shows him debating a Hebrew Israelite camp. Oh. And so I take that scene. No one knows if it happened or not, but the things said are very real things that very likely could have been said. And his path would have totally allowed him to run into them as well. We kind of mapped it out with some friends that live there. And this little miniature debate is perfect to have it act as a launching pad, a jumping off point to explain Hebrew Israelism. And it's a catchy title that's been very controversial.
I bet
as
it
you
has.
Can imagine.
Yeah, I imagine it has. Has the former president commented at all on the book?
No, he has not. I'm got a bug out. I'm trying to get an endorsement for the second edition from him.
This movement is so diverse, and the leaders in it so willing to come up with their own stuff.
I got some clips on that.
That. It reminds me a little bit of the Anabaptists in the sense that the only thing that held the Anabaptists together was a particular form of baptism, not even a particular belief about what baptism was.
Right.
And hence you had all sorts of different beliefs parading under the name Anabaptist. And so it isn't an overly useful phrase. And so when you've got Messianic Hebrew Israelites, and you've got non-Messianic Hebrew Israelites, and you've got people coming up with their own canons of Scripture. How do you even hold it all in one realm?
That's why on page 22, my book has a chart, and it does some categorization of them. Now, one of the Hebrew Israelites recently called it a hit list.
Wow.
A hit list. Now, it's not a hit list. The reason why I'm doing that is so you can know who is who. It's almost like the denominational charts that Christians have been making of each other for hundreds of years. This is nothing new. Just we're only doing with Hebrew Israelites, or that people do with Islam according to the school of jurisprudence that they hold to. So what I do is show here's one West type camps. That means the type of Hebrew Israelite who comes out of the ideas that were there in Harlem at 1 West 125th Street in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s until the school split. But there's camps who clearly are influenced by them. For example, if they use Yahawashai for Jesus, that's a telltale sign they embrace Lashawan Quadash, which means they're One West influence. In fact, I've got a great title for this episode. It's Merry Christmas with the Hebrew Israelites. Ho, 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 Yahawashai. So anyways, but so that's One West type Hebrew Israelism. For example, the Edomite doctrine, that white people equals Edomites or whatever,
right.
That's a One West thing. Not all Hebrew Israelites hold that. The 12 tribes chart, that's a One West thing. Not all Hebrew Israelites hold to that. Okay. However, the transatlantic slave trade equivalency thesis, which is you getting transported to the Western Hemisphere via slavery or some other form of oppression, equals you being highly likely to be an Israelite, basically. But really, it's broader than that, because if you hold to the 12 tribes chart as a One Wester, then it's basically if your ancestors were oppressed by colonial powers. That's the essence of it. But the non-One West Hebrew Israelites still hold to some form of that transatlantic slave trade equivalency thesis. So Zion Lex, you had his book last time I came in here. He's not a New Testament guy. He's Tanakh only. He's not a One Wester. He criticizes their fake Hebrew because he knows real Hebrew. Yet, his book heavily focuses on Deuteronomy 28. Heavily. In fact, he even does gematria on Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah.
So that's something that holds them together. And here's what's up. These guys will form debate crews or coalitions together, even if one is Tanakh only and one is not. What that shows you is this. The unifying principle thesis for them in their mind is whether you consider yourself a descendant of Jacob, not whether you hold Christ as Messiah. Because they will work together and say, brother, and mean it almost not just in an ethnic sense, but almost more like in a religious sense, it seems.
Yeah, but some of those One West groups go after each other like I don't know what.
Yes, they do. They're vying for who is the real One West type influence school. And ISUPK, in my opinion, wins that battle, but that doesn't mean they're winning the movement. IUIC is up to 5,000 members. They're clearly winning the movement as far as numbers and organization. They're now in a missionary phase. They're going into Ghana. Since we last spoke, they've made heavy inroads into Ghana. So we're talking a whole nother level, even in the last year from when we spoke. In fact, last time we spoke, their school was at 31st and Indian School in a tiny little suite. I called, it was very cheap rent. Now they're at 19th Avenue in Dunlap in a nice big suite. I went and visited. Parking lot was full to the brim. People had to park down the block for 4 or 5 hours in a row. By the way, I went there and dropped off a book with my phone number in it and said, give this to Nathaniel because I knew Nathaniel was in town. I don't know if that's going to...
19th Avenue and Dunlap, so near the train station.
Yeah, a little bit further north up from it. By the way, shout out to Abu. He gave me the address on that.
Near Taco Bell. Yeah, okay.
But it's big, and they're there for a long time.
You know, just today, somebody sent me actually sent a link to Michael Brown and I, and when I was looking in your book here, I think it was to Straightway Truth.
Oh, Pastor Dow. Yeah, he wants to debate. Pastor Dow, and he's got his AR-15 in the background. He wants to debate somebody on the Trinity. Yeah, that's him. He's an ex-Pentecostal preacher who retains belief in tongues and casting out demons and is now a Hebrew Israelite pastor. And his congregation, believe it or not, is a mixed... it's a multi-ethnic congregation.
That's what it was.
And he's definitely got his own thing going on down there. He's sort of like a maybe what Divine Prospect aspires to in the future, except to do it in Atlanta instead of Tennessee. Because he's doing his own thing at Straightway Ministries. But what we've seen happen, not just the growth of the camps, and not just the moderates becoming more vocal, we've seen an increase in quasi-looking Christian ministries take on Hebrew Israelism and become bigger promulgators of it. We've also seen that. We've even seen a few churches flip. There's a video, now granted it's a smaller church, but it's still disturbing to watch, where the pastor explains how wrong he was, hands over his keys to the men of ISUPK. Those are the guys who wear all black with the fatigues and the combat boots and the stars and the studs and the leather bands. Hands over the keys, and at the end of the video basically swears his allegiance to commanding General Yohana. And there's these, of course, that's their moment of triumph. Similar to the One West groups, their moment of triumph, that their favorite thing is whenever they get a video of someone kissing their feet or kissing their shoes out on the street. I don't know if you've ever seen those videos. These are like moments of triumph for them. But the moderates don't go to that type of stuff as much because they're sort of embarrassed by it in a way.
It is embarrassing, yeah.
They go towards... for example, some clip of Divine Prospect supposedly shellacking or schooling us on textual criticism. Those are their moments of triumph, they think.
And who are the Purple Power Rangers again?
So you're talking about the guys who are Israel United Christ. Those are the ones who are up to 5,000 members.
But are they still wearing the purple with the, looks like aluminum foil? They
look more like, there's at historically black colleges and universities, HBCU, there's a group called the Q Dogs, and they're like a step group, and they actually look similar. So a lot of times when they're out in the street, people say, are you guys part of the Q? Sometimes people ask them if they're like overzealous Laker fans. But, I mean, that's their uniform because their thing is those are the colors of majesty and royalty. So that's why. And their thing is we need order and design. And so they mock GMS. They call them the Hebrums, or the Hebums, because GMS just throws on a smock and says, I'm a prophet, whereas they have a uniform, and your ranking actually determines the type of uniform you're able to have. They're very specific.
You said they were extremely organized.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
They are on message. They're doing mission trips to Ghana. It's unbelievable what they're... Now, the thing is, though, I predict a few things are going to happen within Hebrew Israelism. Now we're talking about One West. We're not talking about Divine Prospect style Hebrew Israelism, even though they really do have a common cause. There's going to be some corruption scandals that are going to happen because they're growing big. That's going to happen.
So that means there's money.
Yes, and I'm predicting there's going to be some corruption scandals that are going to come of light that would have been possible 10 years ago because they didn't have the same type of resources. You're going to see that happen. They're going to start to look like some of the corrupt churches they criticize. I guarantee this is one thing. Another thing you're going to see happen is they're going to either become more rabid in their response to Christian apologetics, because since we were on, there's a whole crew now. I got something called the Shield Squad. Shout out to everyone on Shield Squad. There's a group called the Soldiers of God. There's churches doing conferences, and the response by Hebrew Israelites has been abysmal.
Really?
It's been absolutely.
But isn't the normal response to put up a dozen videos of whoever you're criticizing wearing horns in flames of hell?
That's more the GMS style. IUIC's strategy is ignore them. We're building a nation. Only debate old weak pastors. That's IUIC's strategy. Yes, that's their strategy. They regularly do that. ISUPK's and some of the other group strategy is to only debate if you can do it with all your home territory at your advantage, so you can always claim victory and make memes immediately afterwards. That's an ISUPK Sakari strategy. Each one has a response, but it's not going to work long term. Divine Prospect strategy is to do a snow flurry of information that it's irrelevant. He is the king. He's the king of irrelevant thesis.
There was so much information he was throwing out there that
it's a snow job.
I mean, I can see how none of this is relevant, but if you want to believe what he's saying, then it's like...
There's a lesser-known fallacy people don't often talk about. It's called the fallacy of irrelevant thesis. Ron Shields' Divine Prospect gets the crown in regards to committing the fallacy of irrelevant thesis. And so you're going to see changes in responses. After this, there's going to be hundreds of videos made. You're going to have new stuff.
YouTube's going to crash 4 times over the next week.
So what they need to do, though, is they're going to have to put on their big boy pants and actually start to deal with the apologetic challenges, because we're playing basketball with them, and they still got... They still got 5 guys out there. We still only have a couple guys on the court. Once the whole team gets on the court, it's not going to go well for them.
No.
Because just with 2 guys, and I say 2 not literally, I'm saying 2 as a number compared to what they have. It's not, so they've got to realize practice time is over. It's really starting to happen. And so their responses have not been well. And I think Divine Prospect realizes it. That's why he's trying to engage on a Hebrew Israelite apologetic project to show a model, but he's not doing a good job. And that's what we're evidencing here today. He came to be known through videos where he would interact with a well-known kind of underground media channel in New York with a guy named Sa Netter. And there's a TV show that they do. And what he did is he kind of went to bat for the Hebrew Israelite community against the Kemetic conscious community. And so
what?
The Kemetic conscious community, these are folks who believe they're descendants of ancient Egyptians, and they believe that Egypt is the foundation for all modern sciences and things of that nature through the gods, which are really principles of reality, not actual deities, although some do kind of get into the mysticism side as well. And they're kind of they're vying for the same demographic in modern urban America, and so they're constantly battling each other. And so he was seen as a champion against the Kemet guys who are constantly attacking the validity of the Old Testament and things of that nature. And so he went to bat, and so he became well known by all Hebrew Israelites because he was much more well-read than the average Hebrew Israelite. And a lot of people kind of let him get away with a lot as far as doctrinal innovation because they kind of need his scholarship. So they don't call him out for disagreeing with all kinds of things. They give him a pass. And so guys that really shouldn't agree with him, like Captain Tazariak, who's a true blue one Wester, if there ever was one, gives Divine Prospect a pass and allowing him and not calling him out on, creating his own canon, and maybe we'll play that clip later, and other fallacious things that even one Wester's view is very unorthodox.
The other guy that you asked me to listen to.
Zadok ben Israel.
Yes. Seems like a really nice guy that's just confused.
I do look forward. Is it going to happen?
Well, I hope so.
We're working on a dialogue between you two because he's respectful. He's well read. He's humble. He's a super. I mean, not that this is on your. He's a dope MC.
Dope MC.
He raps really well, right?
Did
He
You know, I look through the window at Rich there, and all of a sudden, because I can see my reflection and I can see him, and I see two really old guys.
he is a very good dialogue partner because he listens well. He's articulate with what he believes. Now we have big differences, him and I, but in a manner of speaking, he's the best of the best.
Well, I don't want to leave this, but as I was listening to what you asked me to listen to, someone called in. One of the callers called in and presented the Isaiah 6, John 12 thing.
Yes.
And they did a pretty good job. They didn't nail it the way they needed to nail it, because he actually took the normal way out of that, and that is, but that Isaiah 53 thing is, what they didn't bring up was the textual variant in the Greek Septuagint, saw his glory. The only place where Yahweh's glory is seen is in Isaiah 6. There's no way around that in John 12:41. So whoever it was that called in, and I think they probably heard it on this program, so maybe they're listening. You've got to make sure to close that door before someone takes that back door out, which is what he did. But it didn't strike me that he was actually overly familiar with that. And so but he was like, but I'm open to, I'm open to changing, and he just struck me as someone who's just hasn't been discipled properly. Basically.
He was mainly discipled by Israel of God. They're out of Chicago, not One West, and probably the biggest Hebrew Israelite group in the world, probably. They have out in a suburb of Chicago a mega church that seats 6,000 people. They've invited me to visit. There's one right on McDowell, so I've been there with them. Now, they're still Hebrew Israelites. They still have a softer, kinder, gentler ethnic hierarchy, but they do have one. But they'll actually call someone they perceive as a Gentile. They don't do the whole Edomite thing, a brother. And they really, I think, mean it, the Israel of God. He was schooled by them. Now, he's not currently in Israel of God. He has disagreements with them, for example, about eschatology. He has some disagreements with them.
I couldn't even imagine what Hebrew Israelite eschatology is like.
Well, this is Israel of God's eschatology, which looks different than GMS eschatology, which GMS eschatology is like the nuclear showdown type of thing. But Israel of God's is different. It's maybe closer to Seventh-day Adventist type, but Zadok has a community in Buffalo, New York, and they're doing something different. It's different than really the other groups are doing, and that's why I would love to hear you guys talk and another man from his congregation. Now, we have big issues, and I spoke about some of them on that program, nonetheless. But there was just
tremendous confusion about who God is, what the word God means, the relationship of Father, Son, and Spirit, all those things.
That's why I'd love to hear the conversation with you guys.
Hopefully we can make that happen. But it was just very different than this.
Yes, it is.
And very different than Elder Akah, too. So,
yes.
It's like dealing with three different, very, 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 very different approaches. I don't know how you keep them all straight.
I'll put it this way. Divine Prospect speaks of himself sometimes in the third person. I don't ever picture Zadok doing that.
Right.
To boil it down in manner of speaking.
Yeah. There you go. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for flying in, and I know you got to there's a lot of time to have in the plane parked at the airport, before you fly back to wherever you hide out. I wish I had known about the hat, man. I could have worn. I almost put mine on before I came, and so we would have looked. I would have looked dope.
Ah, nice. All right. There's another clip.
The problem is, in my days, I would have looked like a dope. That's a completely different meaning to it.
Hey, real quick, we got to do this. Shout out to Adam Coleman, Tony Ray of Hazakim, G-Man, Sister Cherry, my man Nissan Cran. Shout out to G-Con. Shout out to So Real. Shout out to Abu, Raquel, Kadash. Shout out to Damon Richardson. Shout out to Jordan Ortiz. Hey, there's some others, but I won't do everybody right now. But shout out to Brother Jay, Soldiers of God.
Is this sort of a a necessary thing now that you have to? Is this just cultural?
No, but this is in all seriousness. Since we met last year, there's been a boom. Maybe you could say it a boon in urban apologetics, and it's beautiful to be part of. And it's just getting started, and so I love what's happening. And so there's people that I can say that, and I'm leaving people out. Last year at this time, the energy and the momentum weren't there. And so, we prayed about some of this stuff last year, that you would see a response by the church, a contextual response, and it's starting to happen. There's starting to be some legitimate conferences. There's pastors that are becoming aware of some of these issues, because I mentioned the Kemetic and the Egyptologist and the conscious. They're on the other side coming in and ravaging. And now the new trend is for a pastor to make some video sitting down in his car, a 15-minute Facebook rant that goes viral, just hating on the historic black church, and then leading this whole GoFundMe thing where he's the new critic of Christianity, and they start doing things like sharing videos by Bart Ehrman. It becomes their thing. The ex-pastor who finally speaks out. Now he's #woke. That's the thing. And so, but we're finally seeing a response. It's not complete, but the reason I do that in all seriousness is because that we're starting to finally see, and it is beautiful to see. I have optimism despite all the wild stuff that's happening that we're talking about. There's great optimism because I see the church, I see some response happening. So it's good to see.
Good. Excellent. Well, thanks for coming in, brother. I hope it was useful to you as well. And